Today we have an article by written by Farouk A. Peru, and we hear what he has to say. It is titled, "Do We Really Need Traditional Scholars?" There is a claim that for anyone to manage and understand the Quran for himself and not by way of scholars is bound to stray away. And they claim that only professionals shall manage the Quran. All we have to do is obey what they say like slaves. But what I have to say is their claim to fame is based on chopped off verses from their original intent of a verse themselves translated to fit their need. The Quran never mentions that it's a must and only through scholars to understand Quran. It never does. It always talks to the reader, whoever reads it. So if the Prophet never translated or expressed the Quran meaning, so who has the right to do so? By what right and standard? And does all the Quranic wealth has to flow through the scholar's mouth only? Isn't Earth large enough with people for them to explore the Quran through daily experiences for themselves? They say the scholars agreed upon that they are the ones to follow on everything they say. So why don't they have a list of scholarly names and dates and places of conferences said? And also, what did they agree upon unanimously? What about abrogations? How many verses abrogated exactly? How about daily prayers that say it's from the Sunnah, but yet we see different variations of prayers from between Sunnis themselves and Shias and Sufis and so on? If they are professionals and we are not, then what they do is their business and not mine. So I am not obligated by them. If we must follow the Sunnah of the Prophet, we say, what was he doing differently? He was wearing the same clothes, eating the same food, marrying women, use perfume, take baths, be a father and a grandfather, husband, brother, and he worked and he was being hygienic. The question is, where did he learn all these things? Wasn't it from the society he was raised in? If these are all brought to us by the Prophet's Sunnah and no one else brought these before, my question is, how were previous people living? Like animals? Even the prophets of before, how were they living? So what kind or type of Sunnah are we talking about? Traditions turning holy, exporting Arabic tradition into a universal mandatory religion thing. So does everyone who becomes a Muslim, or traditional Muslim more like it, must dispose of their culture and tradition and exchange it for an Arab tradition and culture, clothing and mentality? So what about the prophets before him? What are their traditions that became religion? If they are professionals and it has to do with matters in my life, then I have first-hand experience and not them. All they offer are theories and if solutions. The Quran is for all people, yet scholars want to hold a monopoly over people that they are exclusively in charge of God's book and without power of attorney. You just have to believe them. If you don't, they'll throw a couple of verses and you'll be stumped. So, scholars say they are professionals, but do they know that professionals are in various degrees, grades, and specialties? So I would like to see each one's specialty certificate, plus years of experience in that field, and for it to be accepted everywhere. If scholars' interpretations does not suit me, why should I follow them? Under what contract? Since Allah's book is for me, then I'm the one who should be studying it for myself and not them. all we have, we all have different mentalities and situations. So how do I guarantee it's the best interpretation when the scholars tell me that this is what they're supposed to do? If all the scholars just follow predecessors of copy and paste as reference, what do I need from them for? I could look it up myself. Who gave the scholars the right to be the sole manager of the Quran if the Quran is for all people? Do they know that the book of messengerhood is roughly about 1/6 the book versus the maximum? 1/6 of the book maximum, and 5/6 is the Quran, and 1/6 of it is messengerhood. Do all these scholars, do all these books are to tell us what to think, say, and do? Let's discuss the term professionalism. Some professions are scientific that require modern science capabilities, and it means understanding one subject. But scholars in their minds think they have the right to regulate humans' behavior completely, according to a single background of a handful of people who lived before 1400 years ago. So we ask them, who regulated these people before Islam? And if many were a mixture of good and bad and in between, what difference are we from them? All they have is what is in general outlines of personalities and never details, which give them a lot of grounds to play with twisting and turning versions and intentions of stories into what they want, so they could pronounce fatwas and rulings that to some idiot tie it to complete it to Allah, book, and messenger. What they claim to possess are morals of society, and if society, which is an absurd and ridiculous. They do not obsess the morals of society, but they forgot we have consciousness, laws, traditions, instincts to survive, not for ourselves, but with our loved ones with us. So basically, we really don't need them, and they're turning something that's very logical, very common, into a religious storyline. And this is just one of many, just a little thought.